Brew Strong is brought to you by Blickman Engineering, home of the top-tier brewing stand. Visit them online at blickmanengineering.com.
It's time for the beer radio you've been looking for. This is the show that dispels myths, tackles the toughest topics, and makes no apologies for geeking out on beer. Hosted by two guys that drink before they think. Jamil Zainasheff and John Palmer. This is Brew Strong.
Hey, howdy, hey, my brewing brothers and sisters.
Greetings, Cretans.
The Cretan himself.
Here I am. Live and, what do they call it, live at 5?
Live at 5?
Something like that. I'm
listening to the LA news lately? Is that what's going on?
Yeah, sometimes I'm too nerdy for my own good.
How can you be too nerdy for your own good? Your good revolves around nerdy, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And there's some great nerds out there that have their own TV shows. So someday, yeah.
Yeah. One of my favorite sets of nerds is Mythbusters up in San Francisco. Yeah. Really cool. I used to drive past their building when I worked at Macromedia. Yeah. Kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of nerds, we have a fine nerd that sponsors our show.
Yes, that we do.
Blickman Engineering. I think he would proudly be called a nerd. I don't think he minds at all. As a matter of fact, we got him on the phone.
Yep, I'm here. How you guys doing?
Hey, John.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Just having a nice nerdy day here in snowy Indiana.
Yeah, you got a little bit this week, huh?
Oh, just a little bit. Mostly, I got about 4 inches of sleet, and now just getting a nice fluffy snow today. So
good brewing weather.
Oh yeah.
Fire up the top tier and make some beer for when it gets a little warmer, huh?
And cuddle next to the 70,000 BTU burners to stay warm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, and, John, John Blickman, I've got something to read to you here. Somebody sent me an email saying, can you get this to John Blickman for me? I couldn't find an email address for him. I tell you, if you go to blickmanengineering.com, Blickman with 2 N's and engineering with 2 G's, you should be able to contact Blickman Engineering from there. Mr. Blickman, thanks for sponsoring shows on the Brewing Network that you do. I recently bought a cable for my car so that I can start listening to the shows in my car. I spent a lot of time driving for my job. Listening to these shows and the information they contain has really increased my knowledge and helped me make me a more proficient and efficient brewer. They've answered so many questions that have been in my mind as a new brewer, and even things that have not even crossed my mind. It's great being able to listen to the podcast, and so convenient. And through the discussions on the shows, a lot of stuff comes up, brings up lots of different points of view that really cover the material more thoroughly. Often these posts show up as references for topics in forums such as the Homebrewing something or other, which I frequent daily. Thanks again. I just wanted to take some time to let you know that as a listener, I really appreciate what you're doing for our brewing community by making these shows possible. Joshua out in Palestine, Texas. So he wanted me to pass that on to you, Mr. Blickman, for all your sponsoring of our shows, and I want to give you my thanks as well. It's really meant a lot to us that you would, take your hard-earned cash and make this show possible for all the listeners.
Definitely.
Without which, it'd be real tough.
Yeah, I'm just thrilled to sponsor the show. I think the show just gives back to the brewing community a lot. I know, all those people that helped me get started in brewing and get going in this hobby. And I turned my hobby into a job I love, and I'm really just happy to be able to give back to the brewers what I've gotten out of the hobby. So And I love the feedback. It's very humbling. And you guys do a great job, not only promoting the product, but promoting the hobby and keeping those local homebrew stores in business. So thank you guys, too.
Mm-hmm. Well, and, for the listeners out there, if you appreciate what Blickman Engineering is doing to help you bring you to the show, don't hesitate to send them an email. It never hurts to say thank you. And while you're at it, you don't have to buy a top-tier system, but take a look at Hop Rocket or so many other great gadgets that Blickman Engineering produces. The beer gun, that's a great way to bottle your beer. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be bottling up some test brews that I did. Probably in next week or so, and I'll be using my Blickman beer gun for that. So, great handy tool, easy to clean, which is one of the things I don't like about traditional counter-pressure bottling systems. They just take a lot of cleaning, whereas a beer gun's a lot easier. So, quicker and faster for me, and it's got a lot of other value to it, quiescent filling and things like that. But I don't want to get off track. Speaking of giving back to the community, you decided that you would run a giveaway here for people that bought top tier systems from back in the fall sometime through end of January. And Blickman Engineering, you've kindly decided to pay for either the three of us to fly out to the winner's location and brew with them on their top-tier system, or they could actually fly out to the Pope Estate out here in sunny California and brew with us three out there on my top-tier system. And go down to the studio and do a Brew Strong show with us, and probably stop by Heretic Brewing and show them that place, and be a world of fun. So I guess without further ado, should we do the drawing here? Do you have our winner? I think
that sounds great.
All right,
we've
drum roll.
A pile of them.
Big pile.
I appreciate that for everybody that's bought them. It's helping my kids get to college. How about that? Speaking of kids, so that I could have this unbiased, I had my daughter pick from a random list of invoice numbers that we've been tracking as we go along here. So they just picked a number, and I looked it up in the system. Hey, do we have a drum roll or something? Can you whip up a drum roll, Justin?
Yeah, let me try it.
There we go. The lucky winner is Kevin Drake from Kings Beach, California. So not all too far from you. I looked up where that was, and it's just on the north side of Lake Tahoe.
Oh, wow. He could.
So it must be a beautiful area.
He could just drive down to my place.
Yeah.
That. Let's go to his place.
Yeah, right. Yeah, let's go up. Hey, Kevin, we're on our way.
When I looked at that, and I go, crap, they're going to think that I staged that.
Right.
Yeah, Blicker's like, where do I want to go this year?
Yeah, he wants to go there and get more snow, I think. Yeah.
Alaska.
I was just praying it wasn't going to be in, like, northern Montana.
Right.
It's a little cold.
Yeah, Kings Beach, just north of Tahoe. Boy, they get plenty of snow up there. There's plenty of snow up there right now, but there's good skiing up there.
We're going to have to get there soon so we can go skiing.
Right, exactly. All right, so Kevin, what I want you to do is email me, Jamil at MrMulti.com or Jamil at thebrewingnetwork.com, and we will start the process of figuring out whether you want to come down to my place and brew or you want us to come up to your place and brew. That'll be Mr. John Blickman, Mr. John Palmer, and myself. And whichever you prefer, we can do. And, I think even if we come out to your place, we might be able to swing it where you can come down and do a show. It just depends. It might be a little trickier. Because if Palmer comes out to my place, then it's easier to do the show with you. So one way or another, we'll make it work. Just give me an email, and we'll set you up. Congratulations. And thank you, Blickman Engineering, for sponsoring that. That's really generous of you. And, I think on top of all the sponsoring you're doing already, to throw that in was quite kind.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it. These are fun things to do. And, again, I really enjoy giving back to the hobby that's given me a lot of fun for many years. So. Glad to do it.
And you like hanging out with homebrewers and seeing how they brew, and I think that's where a lot of your future product ideas come from, right? You see brewers in their environment, and you notice a problem, and then you start formulating a solution.
Oh yeah, it's. Every time we brew, we're thinking, okay, what are these things that bug me when I brew? And you get, just feedback from customers, hey, I've got, issues with this part of the brewing process, or, is there anything you can do to make, this part of the process faster? And that's really where we get our ideas for cool new gizmos and that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Very cool. All right. You got anything coming up in the pipeline you can tell us about? Secret lab?
It's all top secret stuff.
Yeah.
I could tell you, but I'd have to kill you, and that'd be the end of the radio show, wouldn't it?
Right. They need to be sponsoring
I will say
dead air in more ways than one.
Yeah, we've got more ideas of products to come out with than money avails. So definitely got a lot of projects in the queue. So
now you're going to be at the Homebrewers Conference in San Diego. Are you going to be showing anything new there?
We just may have something, one or two new items to debut there at the show.
So you guys...
That's always a fun place to bring that stuff out.
Right. So
get the reactions of all those brewers that, really have got such a passion that they'll spend a ton of money going to a show. And if you've never been, it's a great weekend. You can just go for the weekend if you're local, or you can go for the whole Thursday. Well, actually, it's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. They got a lot of pre-events and things, so it's a great time.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed going as an exhibitor, and someday I'd like to just go as a guest.
Well, and for all you listeners out there, make sure you stop by the Blickman Engineering booth, see the new products that they have. They usually have them there. You can touchy-feely those things, and you can even shake the hand of the man who sponsors the show. So stop on by there, say hi, pass along your thanks, and enjoy checking out those new products.
Yeah, and it's always great kibitzing with all the brewers and stuff, so stop on by. That's what we're there for.
Cool. All right, so again, congratulations, Kevin Drake, winner from Kings Beach, California, of our drawing for having 3 geeks come to your place and brew with you. All right, let's take a... Me too. Let's take a short break, and when we come back, we'll get into the rest of the show. Back after this.
When you hear Blickman Engineering, think innovation, passion, quality, and customer service. Blickman gear is designed by brewers to give you a sense of pride in your equipment. At Blickman, they know what makes brewing a pain and build gear that makes it fun. Like the intuitive beer gun, a completely different approach to filling bottles. The Therminator Wort Chiller, a new take on a plate chiller that's sized for flow, performance, and the high groundwater temps homebrewers face every day. The Brewmometer, a brilliant weldless thermometer design with brewing parameters right on the dial. The Autosparge, ultimate simplicity for preventing an overflow or running your mash tun dry. And much more, like the modular top-tier brewing stand, conical fermenters, and their Boilermaker brew pots. With more cutting-edge equipment coming soon, keep up with the latest from Blickman at blickmanengineering.com and stay on the cutting edge.
Hey, BN
BN Army? You think you're badass? Well, you are, kind of. Like badass, but without the balls to blow something up. HopTech in patriotic Dublin, California recognizes your nearly badassness with a BN Army discount on every order. But there's something those boys and girls in the real Army should know. If you have an APO address or a scan of an active PX card, HopTech salutes you as an actual badass and offers their thanks with a 15% discount on every purchase. That's the HopTech way of saying thanks to all active military personnel. 15% off ingredients, kits, equipment, as well as games, books, gifts, and more, all at HopTech.com. Whichever Army you're a member of, any branch of the military, or the BN Army, HopTech in Dublin says thank you with great discounts. Call 800-DRY-HOPS. Visit the store in Dublin, California, or go to HopTech.com. HopTech, serving homebrewers for 28 years.
Nico, listen, our lawyers said that we had to do this for 1 hour, and after this, we don't have to talk to each other for 3 more months, I think, to the next meeting.
Kids, come on, let's get out of here.
I'm supposed to have more lines. I'm the professional. Hey, it's Sully.
And I'm Nico.
And we opened the 21st Amendment 10 years ago at 563 2nd Street in San Francisco, just 2 blocks from Giants Park, to make great beer and have a great time doing it.
That's right, because to us, the 21st Amendment is more than just the right to make beer. It's the right to experiment, to be innovative, and just do things differently. And so now, we're putting our craft beer in cans.
That's right, cans. You can find our world-famous Hell or High Watermelon Wheat Beer and Brew for Your Die IPA in the Northeast, Northwest, parts of the Midwest, and Alaska in cans and on draft. So next time you're at your local neighborhood pub or good beer store, be sure to ask for 21st Amendment in cans.
Because everyone likes it in the can.
Tasty crack cans.
Tasty crack can.
Hi. My roommate's gone for the weekend, and I'm wearing something flimsy.
Listen, baby, I told her not to call me after 8. I gotta go.
Who is that? Your girlfriend?
Shut up, Doug. Did you guys get the cauldron set up on the altar of my art?
If you weren't so busy getting booty calls, you'd know that.
All right, I'm using the scroll of Mosher to boil the first decoction.
You took too long. The color is now darkened past the point where you can still call it a Pilsener.
This sucks.
I hate it when Greg's the brewmaster.
What's this? Poindexter Urkel?
Dude, can't you see we're in the middle of a brew session?
Is that an actual beer?
Yeah, I crafted it. I don't really use the dice anymore. I'm a 10th level beer nerd.
Are you a 10th level beer nerd? Do you belch White Labs 833 and craft Simcoe? Then you're in good company at Northern Brewer. Check out Northern Brewer's huge selection of dorky beer kits, including the Cylon Detecting 3-Hearted Ale and the collector's item Super Alt.
Mine's in mint condition because it's still in the box.
Make 10th level at northernbrewer.com.
Sheila, what's it feel like?
Take awesome and multiply it by 2.
Yeah! Spraying live beer radio all over your face.
Can't get any better than this, baby!
It's the Brewing Network.
Back to your hosts, Jamil Zainasheff and John Palmer. Putting the testicles in technical. This is Brew Strong.
All right, we're back. A couple of things have come up over time. You know, we do these shows, and you know, there's a lot of information that we put out, and information changes, or a lot of times there's some misunderstanding of what we have discussed, and so we need to go back and revisit some material or update some material. And one question came through that I thought was quite interesting was from Ryan, and he was saying, I have a couple of questions about hop utilization. In my experience, it has been universally stated that the gravity of the boil impacts the utilization of the hops. High gravity decreases isomerization. In the forum, I don't know which forum he's talking about, probably the Brewing Network forum, which is a great forum, by the way. I don't know if you checked it out, thebrewingnetwork.com. There's a little forum button there. Click on that, and you get in. Lots of like-minded folks to chat with. In the forum, this came up with the statement that it is brake material that is limiting hop utilization, which would be correlated to gravity, not actual sugar content. There was also some talk of work that Palmer did that supported this, but no mention of whether it had been addressed on a show. I'm just trying to get a better understanding of the science behind utilization, and also wondered what that means for extract versus all grain brewers, if it is a break material and not a gravity that has an impact on utilization. So what say ye, Palmer, you being much more well-versed in hop utilization than I am?
Well, yeah, we had a really good discussion about this last year with Glenn Tinseth. Mm-hmm. So if you look back through the Brew Strong archives, you can find that show.
It was an excellent show.
Yeah. I think it was like December 19th or something of 2010. Or, sorry, 2009? 9.
We've been doing the show like 5 years now, or however long. 3 or 4 years.
That long, but yeah. But, yeah, really good show. We covered a lot of this then. Basically, the high points are that, first, an IBU, a real IBU, is a spectrophotometric measurement. That is, they shine a particular wavelength of light through a glass sample containing the beer that's had some solvent added to it, and they measure how much light is absorbed by that beer sample and by the isomerized bitter stuff that's in the beer sample, and that's how they determine the IBUs for that sample. It's a scale. It's not actually measuring the parts per million of isomerized alpha acid. They can do that nowadays with high HPLC, high pressure liquid chromatography machines. And they can do it pretty quickly, but 50 years ago when this technique was developed, they didn't have those, and spectrophotometric measurements were quick and easy by comparison. So, in a real IBU, measuring it that way, what they're actually measuring is a combination of isomerized alpha acid, oxidized beta acids, which are also bitter, and hop tannins, xanthohumals, I believe they're called, which are also bitter. So, the IBUs that professional brewers talk about and that you see, quoted in on professional brewing websites or on their packaging is that spectrophotometric measurement, which talks about bitter stuff, not necessarily ppm of isomerized alpha.
Well, and often it's estimated. A lot of breweries just estimate. They never bother to get it tested. It is what it is, and they just guess, or they use whatever formula, right?
Yeah, they kind of determine it by tasting, or So it is an estimation, and really all of our hop IBU calculations are estimations. They're models that were developed based on what we felt were the factors that contributed to how bitter that beer became. For instance, estimating how much alpha acid gets into the boil. That's kind of your AAU unit, or how many ounces of this percentage of alpha acid in the hop goes into the kettle. Mm-hmm. So that's one factor. And then from there, you estimate how much of that alpha acid is lost to the hot and cold break. And this is where boil gravity comes in. We used to think it was simply the concentration of sugars. The higher the concentration of sugars, the more it prevented the alpha acid to dissolving into the wort from the hops themselves.
Mm-hmm. Kind of like an osmotic gradient type of issue.
Right. But and this is where recent science comes in and says, okay, we've done this, we've actually measured the amount of alpha going into solution, and it does not depend on wort gravity. So that was new, but what we're, and the theory then is, okay, how do you account for
the change?
The difference, as you go into higher. And the best, the theory at the moment is that by going higher gravity worts, you're providing more protein, more hot break, cold break material, that the slightly soluble alpha acid sticks to and is taken out of solution, or precipitates the bottom of the pot. And so when you rack off the trub, either whether it's in the boil kettle or the fermenter, you're leaving that behind.
Even if hop tannins are being measured as part of the bitterness, then the more protein you provide, the more it's going to bind up with hop tannins to form break material. So it's going to take that material out right there. And then just like yeast during fermentation affects bitterness, I would imagine these isomerized alpha acids, or maybe the alpha acids before they're isomerized, cling to this break material, or somehow become bound up, and that gets removed.
Right.
That might also be part of the perception of when you transfer break material to the fermenter, you get a harsher beer. Some people would say, right, and maybe it's actually just more bitter. And people are saying, well, it's harsher, or maybe it does affect the bittering compound some way. I don't know. Just guessing and throwing things out there.
Right. Yeah, I think you may be correct. I mean, there's different methods. Individual brewing methods are going to result perhaps in different percentages of oxidized beta acids, tannins, isomerized alpha acid, or being carried into the final beer. How the person stores their hops is going to be a factor. So, and then going back to our IBU models, we also put in factors for time to figure out or to estimate how much isomerization has occurred for each hop addition. Mm-hmm. And then the final thing that we do in that model is we divide it by the final boil volume, because that gives, that we've got so much alpha and isoalpha going into the wort, and then we're dividing that by the total volume of that wort so that we know what the final concentration is. Mm-hmm. And from there, we calculate an IBU number.
Right.
It's a model. It's, it's served us well for the last 20 years. Mm-hmm. Maybe the factors we're using are not the factors we think they are. But, as you and I have said many times, pick a model, whether it's Rager or Tinseth or Garrett's or Daniels, and stick with it, because then you are brewing consistently.
Right.
And you can thereby predict what you're going to get. Mm-hmm. So that's the real key to it.
Yeah, you taste your beer and you say, well, 35 IBUs in this recipe isn't enough, so let me calculate it to, I want 45. Or, I want 25. And really, instead of numbers, maybe it should be, A through Z, and I'm going for a G level of hopping. Or an H level. People see these numbers and they're, well, this is the IBUs that's in the beer. I was like, no, not even close. I mean, maybe you get lucky and that number does work out to be in it. But it's just an indicator level. Maybe it should be percent or something, something where you're not, thinking that this is really the IBUs in the beer. Because, it just depends on, your pitching rates, the yeast strain. It depends on, yeast strain itself can have a huge impact on bittering. And you have beers that are yeasts, and you say, it says, this produces a maltier beer. Or this one emphasizes, hop character or something like that. A big part of that is, how the, those hop compounds bind up with the yeast, and, your pitching rate and your yeast health and, other factors of fermentation are going to make a difference. You could take the same wort and you could pitch different yeasts or different amounts of the same yeast, and you end up with different bittering levels at the end. Right. So, that's a big part of, how all that happens.
Yeah. Isomerized alpha and alpha acid loves to stick to yeast. Mm-hmm. So,
well, I imagine even your fermenter type is going to affect the resulting bittering in the beer, because if that surface would be glass or certain types of plastics or stainless steel, that may actually, would you think, affect it as well? Or
I'm sure that there's a difference in the adsorption, I think it's the right word, of the alpha like say you're dry hopping in the fermenter, the different materials will affect how that alpha acid absorbs onto the surface. It'll probably stick better to plastic than it does stainless steel, or less so to glass.
Right.
Or it could be the other way around. I don't know, but there probably are differences.
Because I know when I'm cleaning a plastic bucket, then you smell the hops a lot more.
Right.
You smell a lot of those compounds a lot more. You actually kind of get that in stainless steel too. Cleaning out a stainless conical, you can smell the hops in there. And then in glass, maybe not so much. I mean, that would be my guess. I may be totally wrong. Like I say, just a guess. And I would imagine, the shape of the fermenter may even have an impact as well. You could have a fermenting in a 5-gallon corny keg versus, a shallow stainless pan or something is going to affect things.
Yeah, surface area to volume ratio, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Contact with the materials, surface area, activity of fermentation. That's going to affect things as well, especially hop character. If you, anytime you're boiling or you're fermenting and you smell hops, that's hop compounds that aren't in your beer anymore. That's why you can smell them, because they've left the beer. So, not that you want a less vigorous fermentation, but be aware that, you have to account for these things. And, that's going to impact your final bittering, your final hop character.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. So, I mean, when you see, discussions on the forums, saying that, don't use IBU calculations anymore, that's bunk. Well, that's not a good reaction. I mean, maybe the models aren't predicting or using the information that we thought they were. Maybe our models are slightly wrong, but they are the models that we've been using and have driven us to pretty consistent beers. I mean, you look at competition beers, and you and I judge it. We know homebrewers are making excellent beers and using these formulas to help them design their recipes. So, it's
given us a language, to talk with others about. And what I'll do is I use Rager just because that was the one I started with, not because it's any better than any of the others. But, I got used to it, and so I don't want to change. So when I'm talking to somebody about bittering or a recipe, I go, well, it's 30 IBUs calculated by Rager using pellets. And, it's kind of qualifying what you're talking about, and it helps, people to understand, exactly what's going on. If I was using Tinseth, I would say, well, it's 25 IBUs or whatever it would be. And, in one case, one's going to be more accurate than the other. Really, that's neither here nor there. It's, again, just a way of, like you were saying, helping reproducibility and being able to brew consistently.
Right.
All right. Yep. Anything else to add about hop utilization there?
No, I think I beat that horse pretty good.
Okay.
If there's any questions in the chat room, we'll answer them later in the show.
Right. And check out that hop utilization show we did with Glenn Tinseth. It was I thought a really good show. Glenn called in and we had a good discussion. All right, let's take a short break, and when we come back, we'll get into some updates to your water calculator, huh? All right, back after this.
Since 1921, Muntons has been a provider of quality malted grain and extract.
What did he just say? What did he say?
That's 90 years of locally sourced grain for home brewers and professional brewers alike. All farmed within 50 miles of our malt houses.
What? I can't understand what this is. The last part.
Whole and crushed malts, including wheat and peated malt, liquid extract, hopped and unhopped, as well as dried malt extract. Everything from beginner home brewer kits to all the ingredients an advanced home brewer needs.
Something about trains? What language is this guy speaking? He's from Austria.
Muntons is proudly serving brewers in 54 countries and honoured to be a leader in malting.
Can you understand this guy? No. That's a really weird language.
Aren't from Munton's Malt and Malt Extract at your local homebrew shop.
Muntons, for brewing, distilling, and baking. Quality malted grain and extract for 90 years. Make your malt Muntons.
When I order a beer, I want my server to know more about it than I do. I want someone who enjoys good beer and loves helping others enjoy it too. I want someone who knows how to pour a perfect pint for every beer style. I want a Cicerone.
The Cicerone Certification Program is creating the type of people who help you enjoy great beer. Home brewers and craft beer lovers know beer is more flavorful and complex than ever, and it takes some serious knowledge to store and serve beer right. Cicerones know beer. There are 3 levels in the Cicerone program: Certified Beer Server, Certified Cicerone, and Master Cicerone. Cicerones are truly the sommeliers of beer. The best beer locations have a Certified Cicerone on staff. Relaxed and unpretentious. Cicerones are tested on storing and serving beer, beer styles, flavor and tasting, the brewing process and ingredients, and pairing food with beer. Learn more about your next beer guide at cicerone.org. Certified Cicerone, because it takes top talent to present a perfect pint.
Hi, this is Push from the Brewing Network, and I want to tell you about the Brewmaster's Warehouse and how you can get 10% off your next order. I'm a pretty techie guy, but I've never seen an online store like this. It's awesome. Go to brewmasterswarehouse.com and click on Brew Builder. You can whip up a custom recipe so easily even Sven could do it. Seriously, it's slick. You can share your recipe with your own logo and notes to the Brewmasters database if you want. And the best part, it keeps a running tally of the beer you're building while you're doing it. Then, bam, click Buy Recipe, and your cart is filled and ready to go with helpful suggestions in case you forgot something. This thing is amazing. Brewmasters Warehouse is run the way a home brewer would do it, with great service, fast turnaround, and $6.99 flat rate shipping. Brewmaster's Warehouse and the Brew Builder blew me away. Check it out today at brewmasterswarehouse.com. I'm serious. And don't forget to put BNARMY in the discount code box for 10% off your order. Check out brewmasterswarehouse.com. Cheers.
Hi, I'm Jamil Zainasheff, and in addition to my work on the Brewing Network, I write the Style Profile column in every issue of Brew Your Own magazine.
Hi, I'm Sean Paxton, and when I'm not prepping for the Home Brewed Chef on the Brewing Network, you can find me writing articles on how to cook with your home brew for Brew Your Own magazine.
Greetings, cretins. This is John Palmer, and when I'm not writing for Brew Your Own, I'm reading it.
John Palmer, Sean Paxton, Jamil Zainasheff. If you love listening to them on the Brewing Network, you'll love reading their articles, tips, and recipes in the pages of Brew Your Own magazine. Join Jamil, John, and Sean 8 times a year in Brew Your Own. And when you subscribe to BYO on the Brewing Network website, half of your subscription price goes right back to the BN to support great beer and food programming. So sign up for Brew Your Own magazine through the BN website today so you can listen and read your way to better homebrew.
Jamil Zainasheff here for the Brewing Network, reminding you the AHA is giving away 3 full conference passes to the NHC in San Diego in 2011. All you need to do is be an AHA member. You can sign up through thebrewingnetwork.com. Just click on that big AHA logo there and sign up. You also need to be a BN donor. Click on that Donate Now button, and you too can be in on this NHC giveaway. 3 full conference passes. There's one for the Sunday session, one for the Brewing Network's Can You Brew It, and one for Brew Strong. So all you need to do, again, be an AHA member, donate to the Brewing Network, and you too are in the running for a full conference pass for the San Diego NHC. Sign up today.
You're listening to the Brewing Network.
Back to the beer guys that make other beer guys look like wine guys. Brew Strong.
All right, we're back, and I'm feeling in the mood.
What kind of mood is that?
The mood of Valentine's Day. Actually, that's coming up. We were talking about doing shows on Valentine's Day, and apparently some of the people have like loved ones who expect them to do things on Valentine's Day other than beer radio. Can you imagine that?
No.
Well,
I would think that brewing is, well, it's always traditionally been a Valentine's activity.
Right. It has for me. I tell you, my wife understands. She's like, she didn't expect anything on Valentine's Day. But you know what I decided to do is I'm going to go and check out adamandeve.com. They actually have a Valentine's Day special for our listeners. For Brew
Is it a
Strong.
malt extract kit or?
No, not a malt extract.
There's probably some kind of body butter over there, if that counts.
Right. But, you know, what they're doing through February 14th only is they're giving 50% off of just about every item. So maybe there's some items that you would want that aren't 50% off, but they're giving 50% off almost every item there. And
I probably should mention to our listeners that in my experience, I know for a fact that my wife got really irritated when I rubbed her all over with hop cones. The pellets didn't go any better.
So maybe body butter would be good. I'm sure they have 18,000 items. And of those 18,000 items, I'm sure most of them are better to rub across your loved one's body than hop cones.
Yeah, I thought the cones would be better than the pellets, but oh well.
Well, again, this deal before February 14th. Free romance kit, which includes a toy for him, a massager for her, I think. Unless I have that backwards. And, it doesn't matter
backwards
what
can be good.
Well, yeah, it doesn't matter what your gender is, We are quite open and free here. I don't care which way you go. It's all cool with me as long as you enjoy it with your loved one. Sounds good. And something for you both to enjoy, and a adult DVD. You also get free shipping, and all this you enter the code.
This one's Brew Strong.
Brew Strong.
Yeah. Code Brew Strong, one word.
One word.
That's not true. Jamil.
That's right.
This one's Jamil.
Jamil.
Yeah. That's your code.
Right. There's your code to good discounts and loving and don't forget free shipping on all this stuff too.
Do they have his and her mash pedals?
I'm sure they have his and hers paddles.
Yes, they do.
I'm not sure you'd use them for mashing,
right.
but enter the code Jamil, and that'll get you this discount at adamandeve.com. All right, so before the break, we were talking about John. You were telling me that you had some updates to your water spreadsheet. I found that really interesting.
Well, yeah. Colin and I, as you know, are working hard on our water book. You and Chris put out the yeast book, which has been widely accepted as a great book, and we're hoping to
do
the same.
Homeboy and Dog Meat.
Yeah, but Colin and I are trying to do the same with water, and put out a definitive book on water for brewing. So in looking, and working on that, I've known for years that I didn't have a great grasp of how the carbonates behave in the mash. What's the difference between adding calcium carbonate to the mash versus sodium bicarbonate? And based on a graph that shows, of the pH of the species of carbonates as a function of pH, it said that, at pH 5 to 6, that most of the carbonates exist as bicarbonate and CO2. Well, based on that, I treated chalk, calcium carbonate, as bicarbonate once you had added it to the mash, and planned on that much alkalinity being realized from it. And other people that know water chemistry and have looked at this has said that's not right. It should be treated differently. So, make a long story short, I contacted a water chemistry professor up at University of Washington, who's written a couple of textbooks on water chemistry, and asked him about it. And he showed me how the correct way to treat it is to understand that alkalinity is always conserved. That is, think about it in terms of total alkalinity as calcium carbonate. So what you do is you say, okay, if I dissolve in 1 gram of calcium carbonate, that becomes 264 parts per million of alkalinity as calcium carbonate, and into 1 gallon, that is. And to treat it that way. So I revised my MASH alkalinity spreadsheet to incorporate that. It's an accurate calculation now, providing that all of the calcium carbonate goes into solution in the wort.
Which is tough to do, right?
Right. And I know it doesn't dissolve into water very well. In fact, I think the solubility of calcium carbonate in tap water is only like 14 ppm or something like that. It's really small.
Well, and I always thought that the mash helped those all that go into solution a lot better.
pH. Yeah, the lower pH is supposed to help that. The acidity of the mash is supposed to help that calcium carbonate dissolve.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't?
It does, but it still doesn't completely go in. I tried an experiment last night where, to check on this, I made a 1060 wort out of dark malt extract and put in about a gram of calcium carbonate, and pretty soon I could see a white powder on the bottom of the flask of calcium carbonate, at least I think it's calcium carbonate. Now, the pH did change as a result of that addition. I stirred and added some more and stirred. And, my pH went from 5.4, as is, to 6.1. So, some is going into solution.
All right.
Not all of it, because I could still see it on the bottom of the beaker after everything gets settled. And I emailed Charlie Bamforth about it this morning and asked him what his experience with dissolving calcium carbonate into the mash is. And he said, well, it doesn't dissolve very well, less so than calcium chloride. So as Kai Troyster and other people have said, my spreadsheet assumes everything is dissolving. And in other words, it kind of gives you a best case scenario for changes in the pH and chemistry of the mash as a result of salt additions. And it really, if you take a step back and say, okay, well, this is a model, and you got to kind of treat it like we do our hop IBU models.
Right.
It's a tool. It helps us, make an educated guess or an estimate of what the reaction should be or could be, and make our changes to our process from there. From that standpoint.
And that brings up a good point for me. So I've always believed you're 100% flawless. You've never made any of the slightest error possible.
I got to write that down for my wife.
However, even then, I would tell people, I'm like, yeah, use Palmer's water calculation spreadsheet, but taste your beer after that, or scale it back and taste the beer, and see if that's the way what you're shooting for, and adjust from there. It's like, don't take it as gospel, yeah, that this is exactly what you would put in and the beer is going to be perfect. And that's what people assume. It's like, there's so many other factors that are going to affect this. It's the water you're starting with, it's the
individual malts,
the malts and the maltster. That's going to affect things like we were talking hop utilization earlier. Different malt, different IBU in your beer. It's gonna affect, even though the gravity is the same, you're gonna end up with a different level of IBUs based off a different malt. Same thing on the water, and how that malt was made, and the colors of the malts, and there's so many factors in there that you can't just. It's impossible to say. This is exactly what you should do. Same thing, Mr. Malty's yeast pitching calculator, right? Right. That's a good estimation to go with, and I think most people should go with that to start. But there may be a time when you want to adjust that number and say, no, for this beer and this strain of yeast and the temperature I ferment at and, all the other factors, I need to go a little less. I need to go a little more, and that gets me the best result. You dial in. It's just a way to consistently, give you a consistent basis to go from, and then use your ability to taste the beer and to kind of dial you in. And that gets back to being able to reproduce a batch of beer. If you can't brew the same batch of beer twice and have it taste the same, then you have bigger problems than how well mineral salts are dissolving in your mash. Yeah. I think that's a big thing for people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now, I guess the bottom line on my water spreadsheet is now I know that it is calculating calcium carbonate additions correctly, assuming total dissolution, and calculating sodium bicarbonate additions, assuming total dissolution correctly. Mm-hmm. You've got to take that spreadsheet with a grain of salt, though, and say, okay, this is best case scenario, and this is the direction it needs to be, like the upper limit of what it could be, and measure your pH, taste your wort, taste your beer, and use that data to make changes. Mm-hmm. So it's a tool,
right? Well, and I think in general, it's been a good tool for most people because people say, yeah, I used Palmer's spreadsheet. Numbers came out exactly correct on pH and everything else. It's like, great, and I think, for most people, that's how it works out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to share there.
Yeah, a little update on the spreadsheet. So where do people get that water spreadsheet from, the updated one? Yeah,
it's at howtobrew.com, chapter 15-3 .html. Mm-hmm. It's down at the bottom there. It's version 3.0, and this weekend I will put up version 3.0 of the metric, SI unit, kilograms, liters, etc. Version. Right now I've just got the U.S. units.
Do you want me to throw a link on MrMulti.com as well to point people to that?
Oh, yeah, if you would. That'd be great.
Yeah. Send me the information. I'll put it up there and send people to the proper spot, because I think it's the best source out there for that information. So
thanks. Yeah, we'll do that.
Send people over to your site, and I think that'll help. All right, let's take a short break, and when we come back, I got one more mash and salt edition question, and then we'll take any questions from the chat. Back after this.
When Blickman Engineering set out to design a great brewing stand, they knew it had to be strong, adaptable, and last for a lifetime. The top-tier brewing stand is now proudly available at BlickmanEngineering.com. It grows with your brewing skills and equipment. Start with 5-gallon coolers on its heavy-gauge stainless steel shelves. Then move all the way up to 30-gallon pots on the high-output burner tiers. Speaking of burners, the custom Blickman Engineering top-tier burners are extremely powerful, efficient, and amazingly quiet. They have safety stops to center your pot, and they'll last a lifetime and won't rust. The top-tier brewing stand allows virtually infinite combinations from traditional gravity systems to 2 tiers to completely horizontal. Configure your stand the way you want and have the freedom to change it at any time in the future. Your brewing stand should adapt with you, not force you to learn a new process. Visit BlickmanEngineering.com today to configure your top-tier brewing stand and to find a local Blickman retailer. You'll be surprised with all the flexible features and the competitive price. Start brewing with Blickman from the top tier.
Williams Brewing is your online resource for prompt delivery of quality home brewing supplies. Since 1979, Williams Brewing has offered the finest equipment and freshest ingredients and the best customer service in the business. Cut hours off your brewing sessions by using one of our 11 varieties of famous Williams malt extract. Our Williams Belgian Pale Extract is mashed with pure Belgian 2-row malt and a small percentage of Belgian wheat malt for an authentic Belgian character you just can't get from other extracts. Or check out our unique fermenters, 2.5-gallon kegs, paintball tank-based draft beer equipment, bottling aids, and much more. We even have our own line of precision hydrometers. Go to WilliamsBrewing.com to browse our vast selection. That's WilliamsBrewing.com. Orders placed by 3:30 p.m. Pacific Time ship the same day. Brewing is easy. The Williams way.
Hey, what are you doing, man?
Writing a review of WLP 400.
What? You're reviewing yeast?
Yeah. White Labs has home brewer reviews of all their strains. Are you new to these interwebs? Check it out.
That's awesome.
White Labs, your source for great yeast, invites all brewers to visit whitelabs.com to read and write your own reviews of all their yeast strains. Get real-world tips and tricks from other brewers who have made the most of their vials and post your own experiences. It's another way White Labs brings you closer to the best yeast on the planet.
And send. There you go.
You misspelled flocculate, dude.
What? Mother...
White Labs. It's all in the vial.
Downtown Joe's, located in the historic Oberon building in beautiful downtown Napa, California, offers an award-winning brew pub experience from 8:30 a.m. to 1 a.m. every day. For 15 years at the corner of 2nd and Main, Downtown Joe's has been voted Best Night Spot 7 times and Best Brew Pub for the last 4 years in a row. Brewmaster Colin Kaminsky's handcrafted ales, like his Tail Wagon Amber Ale and Double Secret Probation IPA, are the perfect accent to riverside dining, live music, and a relaxing outdoor patio. Don't miss the Beer of the Month, special rotating taps, and the BN Army Member Special. Wear your BN gear, get 10% off your beer. Visit downtownjoes.com to make reservations, peruse their extensive calendar of events, or just read more about their fantastic beers. Come enjoy the fine beer, food, and music. Downtown Joe's, the award-winning brew pub where you'll feel at home.
I've always thought that opening a brewery was a great way to ruin what is the perfect hobby. But like most home brewers, I really wanted to see what it would be like to produce my own beer commercially. When I started out, I was, obscure homebrew geek, and being part of the Brewing Network has exposed me to a lot of people with a great passion for brewing. They seem so supportive, interested, and generous with their support. That kind of thing makes you feel like you can succeed at anything. Of course I'm excited. It's frightening. It's terrifying. It's kind of, we've got this rescue dog, and she is completely frightened. So when she comes up to me, she's shaking and salivating at the same time. I feel the same way with Heretic. I'm still a homebrewer at heart, and I hope that homebrewers always feel welcome at Heretic and able to provide part of the feedback and creativity that makes craft brewing great. The thing that excites me most is the opportunity to put a beer out there that I feel is the best beer I can make, and especially get a chance to go and drink that beer with people and see their reactions and get their feedback, and hopefully they'll be as excited as I am about Heretic beer.
This is www.thebrewingnetwork.com.
Sit down next to it, grab yourself a paper towel, and watch those yeast have sex.
You're listening to the Brewing Network.
Back to the two guys that know how to turn beer into beer. This is Brew Strong.
All right, we're going to wrap this up with one more question on mash pH and salt additions from Ryan in Logan, Utah. And keeping with your requests, we're trying to keep these shows to about an hour so they fit on one audio CD, so you guys can play them in your cars and things like that. And just break them up so they're not so massive that the files don't fit. And let's see here. So we're Dear John and Jamil, I've listened to your shows, Ryan says, listened to your shows on brewing chemistry multiple times, and there's still one point on which I am a little confused. Yeah, there was our water Ganza. I think it was like 5 shows about water chemistry in brewing. The salt additions are made to, 1, correct mash pH, and 2, alter the flavor profile of the beer. If you are mashing, sparging with distilled water and controlling mash pH with 5.2 stabilizer or phosphoric lactic acid, if you're using distilled, you probably wouldn't need any acid.
Right.
It's probably going to go acidic. Is it still necessary to add other ions to the mash, i.e. does calcium, magnesium, etc. in the mash have any effect on the amylase activity, conversion, or final beer flavor if the mash pH has been adjusted to 5.2 to 5.4 via other methods. It would greatly simplify my brew day if I could use 5.2 stabilizer or acid to hit the proper pH. Then I would only need to calculate salt additions for the final volume of wort to achieve the desired flavor profile or to meet the desired ion minimums for yeast health. Your thoughts are greatly appreciated. Thanks for devoting your time to producing informative, high-quality shows. You guys are truly a fantastic brewing resource. Again, Ryan in Logan, Utah. From the fermentation side of things, all those mineral salts, are just critical for yeast function. They are, cofactors in, enzyme activity, and, without them, fermentation really suffers. Now, I guess the question then is, well, how does that work with the mash? Is the mash going to be okay if you just, are any of those minerals critical to the mash enzyme functioning?
Well, yes. Both calcium and magnesium are, as you say, important cofactors for fermentation reactions. They're part of the catalysts and cofactors that the yeast use in fermentation. There's enough calcium and magnesium and manganese and other minerals that the yeast need in the malt. You consider yeast being a naturally evolved creature to eat, malt sugars and so on. They've worked it out so that all malt diet, satisfies their needs. But in terms of brewing, we determined over the centuries that more calcium helps with clarification of the worts, after fermentation, helps haze to settle out, and that additional levels of minerals help our perception of flavor. Basically, we're talking about salts and seasoning of food. So you can brew with distilled water and get most of the conversion you need. Again, there's a minimum level and time of conversion, but by adding some more calcium and magnesium to that, you can improve the conversion of starches to sugars, make those reactions a little more efficient, and then thereby improve your taste as well. The 5.2 is, I believe, primarily potassium phosphate, or different salts containing potassiums and phosphates. Which are themselves not really enzyme cofactors, or don't take place in the chemistry of conversion and fermentation. Mm-hmm. And don't affect the pH. The potassium doesn't affect the pH of the mash. It's the phosphates that do. They act as the buffering agent, which brings it down the correct pH. He could do that. Brew it distilled, use 5.2 to achieve the correct pH, and then add other additional salts to the boil kettle. Mm-hmm. or to ferment, or to get the flavor profile he's looking for. Now, one thing to realize, though, is that when you look at classic brewing cities and say, okay, here's their water, that was used for stout or Dortmunder export, for instance, there you got to remember that in the city of Dortmund they were brewing beer with that water that had that concentration, boiling it, concentrating it, pouring off the trub, and fermenting it, and ending up with a beer that started out with that water. So I don't know what the final mineral concentrations in the beer were. Mm-hmm. So don't go adding Dortmunder water salt concentration to your finished beer, because that may not be the correct amount. If you add it and tastes fine, great, fine. Do it to taste, but don't make the mistake of thinking that is the correct amount to add.
Well, and it just drives me nuts because I think people go overboard on water and they ignore things like fermentation. And, the flavor impact of fermentation is massive in a beer. And, water, unless you've got really screwed up water, going this whole distilled route and the expense of distilled water, unless you have your own distillation plant or deionizing resins or things like that, even then, the cost, of doing that is just, focus on fermentation and, try your tap water unless it's really screwed up. Just try that with, carbon filtering it or adding a Campton tablet, and then, add some, whatever adjustments you need, for, gypsum or, chalk, and you should be pretty good,
in
general,
get you in
the ballpark at least.
Yeah, and in general, Charlie Papazian's New Joy of Homebrewing was correct, and a lot of his recipes were, if you're brewing all grain with tap water, generally your water could use some more hardness, some more calcium, and calcium sulfate to bump up the hop perception is, I mean, for most brewers brewing most beers, which are generally ales, which are generally hoppy, it's a good thing. So if you add a teaspoon of calcium sulfate to your mash, it's probably going to help. Not all the time, but generally. So.
Yeah, I mean, just try that, and don't freak out about it, so much, and perfect all your other process, and then once you've got all that dialed in, and you're at making sour beers unintentionally, then it's time to start dialing in your water, and by that time, John and Colin will have the water book done. So.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I got a chance to go to Downtown Joe's a month ago, and Colin and I sat down to work on the book a bit and talk about it. And I actually got to drink Colin's beers for the first time, and I was just blown away. I mean, really, really good examples of pale ale and IPA, and his porter was outstanding. And we were talking about it. And he said, well, it was good, but I finally figured out it was missing magnesium. And I go, magnesium, really? And he goes, yeah. And he mentioned a friend of his that had been the original brewer at Downtown Joe's or something, that turned him on to that. And adding, Epsom salt and more magnesium, magnesium chloride to his mash made a world of difference in the perception of the porter, where he said before it had been a little lackluster. Adding the magnesium salt pepped it up, and I'm not sure what his final concentration was. I believe he said it was something like in the ballpark of 30 to 50 parts per million.
Yeah, but don't even say that, because now people are like, I need to add all sorts of magnesium, and
But I mean, I guess when it comes to adding stuff, or keep an open mind about it. Maybe don't be afraid of adding Epsom salt as an option if you're experiencing some.
Well, and I wonder if that has more to do with fermentation, because magnesium is important to fermentation.
That's true. That's very good. True.
So that might actually have been a lack of magnesium for fermentation. Fermentation really, has a big impact. One of the things, on Downtown Joe's beers before Colin started there, the beers had actually gotten kind of horrible. The tanks weren't being cleaned and maintained, and Colin spent a lot of time just getting that dialed in. But then, there was a time Colin was over adjusting his water, and the beers had a real minerally harsh kind of character to them. And then he realized that and, adjusted from there. Now his beers are great, but, even he had, over-adjusted there for a period. And, he kind of, has been, So working with him on this book is, somebody, again, who's gone through, the process of, too much, going with, the numbers.
Overcorrecting,
and overcorrecting. And, now through practical experience, he's like, okay, well, I've done too much, or I've gone too much with the numbers. And, so he's lived that experience. And, it takes a lot of time, a lot of batches, and he's done it. So, kudos to him. But you can go overboard on any of these things. It's even in fermentation. People are like, well, if this amount of yeast is good, then well, this much must be even better.
Right.
It's the same thing.
Over-pitching, over-oxygenation, over-hopping.
Yeah. Everything needs a certain balance. All right. Well, I think that was a good show, and I think we got a lot of good information in that one. And thanks again to Blickman for providing that prize for Kevin Drake, Kings Beach, California. He's going to be brewing with Blickman and Palmer and myself on his top tier or my top tier system, one or the other. We'll find out what Kevin would like to do. And I'm sure Blickman will do another one of those in the future if we talk him into it and this one works out.
Yeah.
Also, you want to check out the AHA. You can go to thebrewingnetwork.com and sign up for an AHA member subscription. A little portion of that goes back to the Brewing Network, but most importantly, it supports homebrewers in general. It gives you a voice in government and things like that. Real important. And a great magazine, Enzymergy. I kick out some articles for that every so often, and I believe you do too, Palmer, don't you?
Yeah, from time to time.
Right. Yeah, it's good. And then they also put on the big Homebrewers Conference. That's going to be in San Diego this year.
Yep.
So if you get a chance, check it out. AHA, lots of benefits to that, and you can sign up at thebrewingnetwork.com. Until later, remember, I feel fine, especially my nipples. Brew strong.
Brew strong, everybody.